Last month, I sent over 1.5 million cold emails across all of the clients that I work with. And after sending that amount of volume, it becomes a lot easier to see what's actually working in 2026. Now, I've narrowed it down to 3 main principles that most campaigns are completely missing. And in this video, I'm gonna break them all down for you because if you're treating cold email like it's 2025, you're already getting left behind. So if your reply rates aren't as high as you'd want them to be, or you're just not booking enough calls from cold email, this video is going to be for you. I'm going to show you how to get the best results possible based on the data collected from sending millions of cold emails and booking thousands of calls in the process. This way, you'll know exactly how to get better results from your cold outreach. Now, the first one is going to be a little bit controversial. See, most people think that focusing on having the perfect message to the perfect person is better than just focusing on volume, but I honestly disagree. Because sure, you can send to a small list of perfect fit leads, but whether you get good or bad results, you'll have no idea what does or doesn't work since you don't really have enough volume or data to statistically validate it, which means you have no way of replicating your success the next time you start a campaign. And that's why the first principle of this video is that volume is king. Because when you send out tens of thousands of emails, you're gonna get a lot of data in return. And that data shows you exactly what to do in your next campaign. All because you actually know what offers work, the types of scripts that get responses, and even which ICP segment responds to your messaging. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Sending this kind of volume is going to produce a bunch of lower quality leads that, aren't really a good fit for your business. But here's the thing. You can always filter them out on the back end. All that takes is a simple pre-call form before they book in to weed out the ones that are unqualified. That way you're getting the most possible responses while only talking to the good leads. Now, with that said, let me show you how to do it yourself. So let me give you a brief overview of what our pre-call funnel looks like. Essentially, it's just going to be a Calendly form that leads to a degree of pre-call questions. So if you haven't heard of Calendly, it's a software tool to schedule and connect to your existing Outlook, Google, or whichever calendar that you use. It provides the availability that you have and allows you to kind of package up your booking system. So in this case here, I have a brief description of what the actual event is going to be about. This kind of weeds out anybody who thinks that it's something else, so they know exactly what they're getting into. But as with everything, you have to be repetitive. One line of defense is not going to save you from unqualified prospects. So then we jump into the pre-call form. Again, you're going to see the brief overview. You're going to list your name, your business email, your phone number, company website. We ask average monthly revenue, how big their deal size is, like how much money they would make if a client were to hire them on. That way we know we're not working with a $50 SaaS company. And then what they're most interested in. So each one of these things is just an added layer of friction to prevent people from getting to our calendar. So not only does the additional number of questions add more friction, but the questions themselves serve as protection as well. So if someone doesn't answer the questions the way that you'd prefer, like say they're not big enough or they're just not the type of business that you're looking for, you can easily just cancel the call after they book in. So now that we've built out our pre-call form, we're going to want to find a way to drive traffic to it. And that's primarily going to be through email infrastructure. And again, I mentioned in this situation, we're going to want to prioritize volume. So if we wanted to set up an infrastructure capable of reaching 100,000 prospects just based on these KPIs, this is what the infrastructure need is going to be. So I've set it up here. So it's a 70% split between Outlook and 30% Google. So we're doing that just to mitigate risk. Part of our infrastructure will be set up on one, part of it will be on the other. And if one ever goes down, we'll have the other one to rely on. At the same time, different providers are going to have better results at different times, and you can never really predict that. So again, what this ends up looking like is 72 domains set up on Google and 7 domains set up on Outlook. One of the advantages of Outlook is it does require less domains to send the same amount of volume as Google. So that's why we've kind of gone with the 70-30 split. And you can see here, total, we're going to need 79 domains and 837 sending accounts. All of that to get just under 5,000 cents per day or, 100,000 cents per month. So in order to create those 79 domains that we need, I'm just going to jump into ChatGPT and have it spin up some domain names. So Perfect. So we've had ChatGPT spin up a bunch of .info domains for us. What we're going to do then is grab these domains, copy and paste them, and bring them over to a domain register like Porkbun. You're going to jump into bulk search, and you're just going to drop the domains in there, and you're going to then take those into the checkout page. You can see here .info domains are about $3 per, which makes it super affordable when you're sending at scale. Obviously, the better domains are going to be things like .co or .com, but for the price, you can't really beat .info. Now, once you have your domains, you're going to want to bring them over to a Google or Microsoft reseller. The one that we're using at the moment is Premium Inboxes. The reason why we use Premium Inboxes is because it's super cheap, pretty much around like $3 per inbox, whereas Google or Outlook typically are around like $7, $8 per inbox if you bought them direct. So a bit of a discount, plus you can manage it all in one spot. You can get both Google and Microsoft, which is easy. You can get a workspace if you're using multiple clients, which allows you to kind of segment each one of your inboxes. And it's just a really easy experience to put it through. They set up all of your, like SPF, DMARC, DKIM records, all of that sort of thing. So basically all you have to do is fill out an order form with the number of domains, number of accounts that you're looking for. They load them up directly into your sequencer, start the warming and everything like that, and you don't really have to worry about it. I'll also throw a bit of a discount code down in the description if you want 20% off of all of your purchases on Premium Inboxes. Next, you're gonna actually need leads to send to. So you're gonna wanna jump into a tool like Apollo. You can build out a list of basic filters, job title, location, employee headcount, a bunch of keywords that kind of get to the actual ideal customer that you want, focused on a specific segment. And obviously when you're building lists, you still want to ensure that your lists are based on segments rather than just like hundreds of thousands of people all at once, so that you can actually tell which segment is performing best. So when you go in and you do it based on that particular vertical, and you create each one of your campaigns around the vertical, you can then differentiate where the results are actually coming from. Again, when you're taking a volume-based approach, the goal is to get data. So by segmenting everything that you're doing throughout the process, it's gonna help you get that data so you can make better informed decisions for the next campaigns. But back to pulling the list, the nice thing with Apollo 2 is that once you have your list built, you can see we have 12.4K people. All you have to do is copy this URL and bring it over to a scraper like Amplileads. And if you're not familiar with Amplileads, it's essentially a scraper where you can just drop the Apollo lead list, choose the number of leads that you're looking for, name the file, and submit the order, and they'll provide a CSV to you. From there, all you have to do is verify your list, add any sort of enrichments, personalizations that you want, and you're good to go. On top of the pre-call form, you're gonna wanna add things like confirmation pages and pre-call emails to then inform and weed out those that aren't the best fit to actually have conversations with you. The goal here being that you're actually giving them everything that they need to make a buying decision on the call, or you're giving them enough information that they need to just disqualify themselves and determine that the call actually isn't worth their time based on the information that you've provided. So both things are actually good because they're saving you time in the long run and preventing you from jumping on calls with those that just aren't a good fit. And you can see here the types of emails that we'll send out are the standard reminders, and then also things like case studies, problem amplification, solution frameworks, social proof, things like that. But for those of you that want to start booking calls without spending months testing offers, building lead lists, and figuring out what actually works, you can book a call below. I've used the same strategies in this video to build a complete system that has booked over 2,000 calls for my clients in the past year. So if you'd like to see how we can help you as well, just book a call using the link in the description. Now you can send hundreds of thousands of cold emails, but if people aren't interested in what you actually have to say, then none of that's really gonna matter. So if you're not offering them something that they actually want, you won't really get any responses. That's why nothing in a cold email strategy is more important than your offer. And after sending millions of cold emails every single month, I've actually realized that the businesses that have the best offers are always going to be the ones getting the best results. Now, that doesn't mean you necessarily have to change your entire business model to start seeing results, because the truth is, there's a way to craft almost any service imaginable into an offer that sounds resistible. You just have to understand what makes people say yes to a stranger in their inbox. And we actually do that with what's called a front-end offer. Think about this like selling a car. For most people, choosing a car to buy is a big decision and expensive. That's why dealerships offer test drives so customers can see if it's the right fit before they commit, right? Now your front-end offer is kind of like that test drive. It lets them experience what you do without them really having to commit to anything. And that's gonna get 10 times better results than pitching your main service from the beginning. So let me show you how to create a winning offer no matter what industry that you're in. All right, so the easiest way in my opinion to come up with an offer is to just have a little bit of a back and forth conversation with something like ChatGPT. You're really just gonna need to provide the service, who you're targeting, the types of pain points that those things experience, and then we'll figure out how we can position the offer to solve them. So in this case, I'm going to come up with an offer for a figurative client that's in the publishing industry. All right, so I've just put my information into ChatGPT, and essentially it's spit out a few of the core pain points that founders experience prior to working with someone in the publishing industry. So essentially there's an authority or trust deficit. This is something that they're trying to bridge by working with a publisher. They don't really have a clear differentiator. They don't really have time to write. They've had bad previous experiences. They don't really understand the marketing side of things. Like maybe they're an expert in their field, but not really marketing. And they're missing out on speaking, media, or PR opportunities. So we're going to position ourselves as a permanent high trust sales asset, create a particular category, open doors to opportunities and pre-sale prospects. And obviously there's the fact that this compounds over time. So the first offer is going to be turn your experience into a client generating book in 60 days without writing a single word. Now, the reason why this works, obviously, is that you have a specific time frame. So you're telling them how long it's going to take to get the particular result that they want, which is the client generating book. And we're alleviating a particular pain point without having to write a single word. So this obviously appeals to busy founders, removes the time overwhelm, and focuses on the results. It's client generating, takes 60 days. Offer 2, become a go-to authority in your niche with a strategic book that fills your pipeline. Again, it'd probably be good if this had some sort of time frame, but I can see why this would appeal to somebody that wants to build that authority. And then offer 3 is done for you book that unlocks speaking gigs, podcasts, and high ticket clients in 90 days. So that's pretty good as well. But again, these are all pretty standard. It's not necessarily like a foot in the door. If you just reached out to somebody with this, they probably would ignore you. So that's where the front end offer comes in. These are 3 front end offer ideas that are kind of going to be that pattern disrupt. So front end offer 1 is a strategic book positioning audit. So they'll do a free teardown of their existing personal brand, messaging, and how a book could be structured to attract their ideal clients. Why it works, it shows expertise, it's going to be custom, it opens the loop, right? So if you're offering something free, you give them an idea of what you're like to work with, because obviously this is a huge relationship-based thing, and it allows you a natural progression into the core offer. Obviously, once you go through this strategic audit, you can suggest things for the main book itself. And then the 2 others are all right. The first one is a book topic validation call. I can see why this would be beneficial, as I imagine founders have tons of ideas, and most of them probably aren't good. So maybe jumping on, validating the call for free helps them test it versus what they've seen in the market. You're offering your professional expertise. They get access to that. It doesn't cost them anything, no commitment, so on and so forth. And then the 3rd front end offer, the 7-figure founder book funnel teardown. So this is basically breaking down a similar founder's funnel and how their book helped them progress and the results that came from that. So it almost makes it feel a little bit real if you jump on, show them someone in a very similar position, what they did and what the results were from that. And again, all of these are free, so there's no real reason that someone would say no if they were even considering publishing a book in the first place. But either way, even with volume and a great offer, there's one last thing holding you back from getting the results that you expect from cold email, and that's over personalization. You see, in 2026, most people are overthinking their personalization with all the new tools out there. So they're spending hours enriching their email list with all sorts of data and then creating templates to make every line of their email as personalized as possible. And that may have worked in the past, but everyone has jumped on the personalized bandwagon, which means people are picking up on the fact that the emails seem to know everything about them and are just some marketing tactic. So they've conditioned themselves to ignore it, which means sending out these over personalized emails actually creates friction because they feel robotic and manufactured. So that's why the 3rd way to win is writing scripts that sound human, because not only does that make your email stand out from other sales pitches, it also gives you the best chance of them actually opening it and reading enough to get to your offer. So let me show you exactly what that looks like in practice. So what I'm going to do is pull over the front end offer that we came up with in ChatGPT, specifically the strategic book positioning audit. And I'm going to bring all of this information over into my custom Claude project. Now I've built a custom Claude project that essentially helps us with like 50% of the email copywriting process. And it's trained on every single one of our best performing scripts. So you can see all the subject lines are short, maybe 2 to 3 words, lowercase letters, don't really look like marketing content or premeditated or anything like that. And all they're meant to do is build curiosity. It gives them a little bit of a taste of what the email is about, but in no way explains the actual full content. forcing them to at least jump into the preview text. Once they get into the preview text, you can see we're not even using like, hey, hello, happy Friday, anything like that. We're just going straight into first name and then the offer. Because it's one line, because it looks very casual. So in some cases you can even use like short forms or like abbreviations just to make it look like you just wrote it from like your phone rather than, a high frequency sending tool. First name, if I could help you map out the exact book you should write to turn your LinkedIn into high ticket client meetings, would that be worth a chat? You could even try something low friction, like would that be worth sharing more? And then I've come up with a few different follow-ups that you could leverage as well. Again, you just want these to be short, to the point, not really like, hey, just want to bring this back up, or hey, just nudging you, almost like just an abbreviated version of the first thing that you sent, or adding additional context to the first thing that you sent. So you want to go one of those two ways. Again, the first one here says first name, probably bad timing, but if you ever want to see that book positioning thing, just let me know. This one, again, like these are just generated from our custom Claude project here. I would probably do a little bit of work on this one. I like how they use something like thing, like that's kind of funny. It's kind of casual. Want to see if you'd ever be interested in that book positioning thing, or if you ever want to see that book positioning thing, just let me know. But I think that's maybe a little bit too vague. They don't really know what you're talking about. And truthfully, I usually avoid stuff like this. Probably bad timing. That implies that they ignored your first message. You'll want to avoid that. But I'd almost go like first name. If you're ever interested in seeing the book positioning strategy I had for you, just let me know. You could probably use one of those things back there. So the second one is all right, but I would say it's a little bit less casual. So it says first name, most founders post content that builds awareness but never converts to pipeline. If I could show you the book positioning that changes that, interested in a quick audit. Again, I don't really like the idea of painting the picture prior to a message. You just want to get straight to the offer, like tell them exactly what's in it for them. The whole point of coming up with the front end offer is to make it easy. And if you're adding this whole like theatric pre-positioning of the offer, it just comes off as like unorganic and like you're trying to convince them of something. So I would just jump into the offer itself. So first name, if I could show you the book positioning that helps you build awareness that actually converts into pipeline, would that be worth sharing more? This one might be all right. So thoughts about this? First name, notice you're building authority on content. Curious if you've ever thought about what kind of book would actually drive deal flow versus just being another business book nobody reads. I'm happy to map it out for you if you're curious, would be probably my way of doing that. And then this one here, I think could also be pretty good if you scrape the recent posts that they've had. So first name, saw your post recently about X, Y, and Z. If I could show you how to turn that into a book that actually books sales calls, would that be useful? And then quick 15-minute audit, no strings, little salesy, but I like what they're getting at. It's kind of short, brief, to the point. And then lastly, I think some of these are kind of getting away from the offer. Like here, it's not very clear that this is going to be free. So if I were to redo this, it'd be like first name. So for this one, I'd probably do first name. If I could turn your LinkedIn content into a book strategy that actually books sales calls for no cost, would that be worth sharing more? That would probably work pretty well. Again, because you're saying that it's no cost, you're explaining why what you're offering provides value, and there's really no resistance. Also, by switching worth a quick chat to worth sharing more, it's just a little bit easier for them to say yes, because even if they're not interested in jumping on a call right away, they at least prove that they're curious, and then you can kind of work it from there. And that is exactly what's working when it comes to cold email in 2026. But just knowing what works right now won't matter if you don't know how to implement these strategies for your own business. So if you want to see exactly how we use these same tactics to book 47 calls in just 45 days for a client, you can watch this video next, and I'll see you there.